Hi, it's Olivia, and it's time to talk about my top books of 2020, and these are the books that stuck with me the most for some reason. They don't even have to necessarily be 5 stars, especially since I don't really give stars anymore. And two things to mention. First, I'm kind of taking after Adri from Perpetual Pages because I love what they did in their favorites video, which you should really check out. I love the editing of it, but especially they didn't summarize their favorite books. They talked about a few things that just stood that they took away from the book. I really like that, so I'll be sharing with you what I took away from these books. And then second, I was considering doing a worst books of 2020, but I just didn't have the passion to because there would only be two books on that list, and I've already done videos for them. So the first, to no surprise, is Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis, and the other worst is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. There's that if you're curious, and I'll leave my reviews to those in the description. So the first book I'll talk about, again not surprising, is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This book was just nothing short of inspiring for me. While her whole journey from childhood to into her adulthood, and then of course to when we know her as First Lady, while that's fascinating, what I also really just so adored was like her passion for getting involved and making a difference in what she could. Reading what she had to say about the organizations and projects and stuff that she chose to get involved with was just really inspiring to me to want to do similar things, to want to enact positive change both within myself and my community. Is just, I love that. To wrap up talking about this book, I'm going to share a quote that I love that was on the very first page in the preface in response to how she said that she would tell grown-ups her answer to the "what do you want to be when you grow up" question is to be a pediatrician. She later then said, now I think it's one of the most useless questions an adult can ask a child. What do you want to be when you grow up? As if growing up is finite, as if at some point you become something and that's the end. See, I knew I was getting into something good when I read that. Next is the very last book that I read of 2020, which was The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This book does not let up. Like, the characters don't get a chance to breathe, and because of that, it's a real page turner. We're following this kid who lives in a world where you could hear everybody's thoughts, even animals and insects, and because of that, the way it's written, even like the typography, the way they try to depict like this noise is very interesting. There is a scene that is easily probably the most like heartbreaking scene that I've read recently, like in recent years. I think it's a scene that was kind of bound to be sad no matter what story it was happening in, but I think it's a testament to the author of how sad it was and how impactful it was, because the build up to it and all of the feelings described in that moment, I was like angry sad on that very last day of 2020. Next is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, and the first thing that stands out to me is the fact that this was not a quick read. This was something that took me a minute to read because of its very unique style. I mean, from the narratives that we get and just everything that's going on, I was reading through it slowly, kind of taking it in and trying to piece things together, and I was very happily confused. I was just super intrigued by the concept, this never end, like this world that is always waiting for the next season, the next kind of catastrophe of the world. Moving on to the next book is another book that actually left me kind of confused, but this one was more of a creepy confused and like eerie confused, and that is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I had already seen the movie previous to reading this book, and I have to admit that some of my opinions on both the book and movie get kind of mixed up because there's a lot of, and this is like a sci-fi horror because there's a lot of unknown stuff, and the unknown is kind of creepy, like you don't really know what's going on, and both, you know, the book and movie kind of have their takes on certain things, and so I keep mixing up some stuff. I love not getting certain answers. You know, we have this very mysterious and seemingly deadly area, Area X, and we're going into it now with our main characters, and it has this very surreal quality. The imagery that's described is weird and creepy, and I liked it. I liked it, and I loved the movie. I think lastly of the top books is The Ballad of Black Tom. This is a retelling of H.P. Lovecraft's Horror at Red Hook short story, and someone recommended that I read that prior to reading this. I thought, why not? That's my only experience I've ever had with Lovecraft, and wow, what an excellent introduction into what a racist mind that man has. I mean, that story is basically centered around xenophobia and racism. I mean, it just like oozes out of the story. So you can understand why for this book, the author like dedicates it at the beginning. He dedicates it to H.P. Lovecraft, saying, "To him and all my conflicted feelings." What stood out is that this is a novella that I think really did a lot in the short few pages. Like, I felt like it really set the tone. I really like the atmosphere, and our main character, Tom, he kind of gets involved in this. This takes place in New York, Harlem specifically, and he gets involved with this man he comes across and the kind of world of magic and horror. I just like what he did, turning that short story around into this more fresh story, and also use it as this examination of our main character as a black man in the city and dealing with the cops. And yeah, I think I'll end with a quote that I really liked that said, "Nobody ever thinks of himself as a villain, does he? Even monsters hold high opinions of themselves." Oh, I like that line. So those are my top books, and now it's time for some honorable mentions. I don't know if I should have started with these. I don't know, but the first one is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. And the book itself actually was really not a favorite. If I was judging just that, this would not even be an honorable mention. But there are some things that I took away from the book that did stick with me. Like, I really, really love this idea of keeping what sparks joy. That's kind of the main mantra when dealing with organization. And I just think that that's something to keep even beyond organization, just to have in mind throughout your whole life, like not holding on to things that don't serve you. Next is one that I was considering putting in the top books, but looks like it's honorable mention, Rosewater. This was another one of those stories where I was kind of confused while reading it. It did remind me of the 5th season and a little bit of Annihilation. That's kind of the reason why I picked it up, because it's about this alien dome in Nigeria, and it's been there for like 11 years, and there's just so much going on in this world. The main timeline is in 2066, but it keeps jumping back to previous years, and that's how you kind of pick up the pieces along as you go. But it was definitely one of those, like, you don't really get all the information. The world, and especially how it has dealt with this alien entity, was definitely my favorite part of the story. And all of the details. There were so many times I was doing like a mental double take, and believe it or not, that's not even the forefront of the story. The main story is our main character, who is this criminal turned government agent, who also is a sensitive, so he has access to this mind space called the Xenosphere. Like I said, there's a lot going on. Next, I wanted to mention Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. This I listened to on audio. This really drives home the point that your feminism needs to be intersectional, or it's really not feminism, it's really just mainstream feminism or white feminism. And it examines like the problems with those things. A lot of stuff is things I'm familiar with as a black woman in America, but I like having, words that are really nicely spoken that perfectly describe the experience. Like, there's a lot of poignant points that she was making, and I like that a lot. And she did bring up a wide number of topics, so many that I didn't even really consider in this conversation. And lastly is Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. This was just so joyous to read. I remember reading it back in June, and it was just a bright spot of that kind of heavier month in the news cycle. The characters are, our main character is so passionate, and this like love story and how our characters interact with each other. I just thought it was so sweet. I loved their chemistry, and I loved the setting. It takes place in Qatar. I just really appreciated the communication and chemistry between the two main characters. And yeah, that's pretty much all the books I want to talk about. It's getting dark, and I'd love to know the best things that you read last year. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in another video. Bye!